It's true. There are things that your guests actually don't care about. But as a host, sometimes we get all caught up. We think that it's super important when in fact, it's not. I'm Mara from Joyful Hostess. Thanks so much for being here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm talking to you about the 5 things that guests just don't give a fig about. What did you think I was gonna say? I know what AF actually means. And while I do say the F word in real life, somehow on YouTube I just feel like I can't. At any rate, I'm going to share with you the 5 things that guests don't care about. And if you stick around, I'm going to share with you 2 things that they actually do care about. Okay, number 1, guests really don't care if your house is spotlessly clean. They honestly don't. I think the only person who really cares is sometimes us as the hosts. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't clean your house. Definitely, you want those rooms that guests will be using to be clean. But what I'm talking about is the kind of crazy clean, like where you start thinking you have to dust on top of the cupboards, or your fridge has to be cleaned, or the mess in the laundry room or that spare room where you've stashed everything has to be all cleaned up. And the fact of the matter is, guests are not noticing that. So you can take that right off your plate and instead just worry about cleaning those rooms that guests will be in. I promise, guests will not notice those things. And the ones that they do you really want to be spending time with those people that are nitpicking about how clean your house is? Probably not. The next things guests don't really notice is your party decor and decorations. Now, that being said, that's still important because it lends to the atmosphere for your event. But what I'm talking about here is, the tiny intricate details. Your guests really won't notice if your balloon ribbon matches the napkins that you bought, or if your tablecloth is a little bit wrinkled, or maybe the arrangement that you set on the table is a little lopsided. Like, they're honestly not going to notice those things. So give yourself a break there. And here's a Joyful Hostess tip. Please, 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 when somebody compliments you on the decor, don't point out the imperfections. I know all of us are guilty of this. So it might go something like your guest says, "Oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful here." And you say something like, "Yeah, I didn't have time to actually iron the tablecloth, so ignore the wrinkles." Right? I don't know why we do that. So if somebody compliments you on the party decor and decorations, say thank you. Thank you. That's it. That's all that has to be said. So the third thing that guests won't notice is if you've made everything from scratch. Now, I've said this before, I will continue to say it, you don't have to do everything yourself. You really don't. It's perfectly fine to outsource, to take shortcuts, to buy ready-made, like whatever you have to do to make things simple for yourself so that when guests come, you can be relaxed and enjoy yourself too. I'm all for that. And I will tell you this, your guests won't actually be worried that, "Oh my gosh, she's serving bagged salad or spaghetti sauce from a can, or she ordered in takeout." Like they actually will not. They are there to spend time with you. And so if that means that you took some shortcuts, they're going to be fine with that. Because I promise, the only person beating themselves up over the fact that they didn't make it all themselves will be you, because your guests actually don't care. You can stop feeling guilty about that. It will probably help to take the pressure off, just knowing that you don't have to do it all yourself. And by taking the pressure off, you're more relaxed, which means that when guests arrive, you're ready to have a good time with them. And then everybody has a good time. So the fourth one is how much money you spent. Now, I know this can feel, I know this one is tricky because we want to impress guests. We want it to be special. We want to create these special memories. And I promise you that all of those things are not actually tied to the dollars that you spent. You can have just as good a time having hot dogs and French fries with a good group of friends as you can an elaborate meal and fancy cocktails. Wouldn't you agree with that? So type yes in the comments if you do agree. The best advice I can give here is not to spend money on expensive things to impress guests, especially if you don't have the budget for that, because it will only add to your party stress, number one. And number two, your guests probably won't be as impressed as you think they will be. And then all you've done is just stress yourself out over maybe spending money on things that actually doesn't matter. And right here is where that joyful hostess model really comes into play, because it's less about perfection and more about connection. So don't worry about, spending exorbitant sums. It's about really creating an opportunity for you to spend time with people who are important to you. And if you have guests that are scrutinizing how much you spent or didn't spend, I'm going to say those are probably not your favorite people, number one. And number two, in the words of Elsa, let it go. Just let it go. I would sing, but I'm not a good singer. And the fifth thing is kids' toys or pets' toys. Look, these things are magical because you can put them away and then somehow they tend to magically reappear. So don't worry if your toddler decides 5 minutes before guests walk through the door to dump out their box of toys in the middle of the living room floor. Your guests are not going to be worried about that because this is your home. After all, this is where you, your kids, your pets, you get to live your real, sometimes messy lives. So don't be stressing over stuff like that. Guests aren't worried about these signs of life. They're really not. So you shouldn't be either. Whew. Are you feeling a little bit better? I hope you are. Maybe the stress levels come down a little bit knowing that these are things that guests don't care about, so you can kind of release them a bit. Before I get into the two things that your guests actually do care about, I want to say two things. Two more things on top of those two things. Two things. One, thank you so much for being here and watching through my videos. That means the world to me and that helps me out tremendously. And two, if you like the content and what I'm sharing here, be sure to hit like and subscribe because I do upload videos every week and the videos are all about helping make you become a more confident hostess. So whether it's tip videos like today or recipes, cocktails, party decorations, that kind of thing, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss one. Okay. Getting into the two things that your guests do care about. The first thing I'm going to say is that guests care that there is enough. Enough food, enough drink, enough space. Notice I didn't say plenty or a huge amount because it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but there has to be enough. Because if you run out of food or you run out of drink, or if there isn't enough space, you don't have enough chairs, or maybe everybody's crammed around the table like sardines, guests are gonna notice that because all of those things just make for an unpleasant experience. Let's just say that. So making sure that there is enough, your guests are gonna notice. And the second thing that guests will notice, and this one is probably the most important, and that is how you make them feel. How you make your guests feel is huge. So are you making them feel welcome? Are you making them feel special and comfortable? Are you making them feel glad that they're actually here? Or because you're so stressed out and overwhelmed, are you making your guests feel like a burden? Like you'd really rather be doing something else? Like you can't wait for them to leave? I know you don't want guests feeling like that, which is why I wanted to make a point of saying this is a really important one. How you make your guests feel will leave them with a lasting impression, not only about the celebration, but also about you as a hostess. So make sure you're making them feel welcome. So there you have it, the 5 things that guests don't give a frick about. I still can't say it. They don't care about a spotless house. They don't care that you made everything from scratch. They don't care about the fine details of the party decorations. They're not caring about how much money you spent, and they don't really care about scattered toys around the house. What they will care about is that there was enough and how you made them feel. So I hope this helped put your mind at ease. You now know the things that guests don't worry about, so you can let go of the perfection surrounding those things and instead focus on the connection and really enjoying time with your guests. Until next time, happy hosting!